Hi everyone, this is Ann Elliott from HomeschoolingTorah.com, and today in this video I'm going to show you how we set up our notebooks and our crates for school. And I just want you to keep in mind as I talk today that this is how we do it at our house. You do not have to do it our way, okay? I want you to repeat that to yourself. You do not have to do it the way the Elliots do it. I get myself in a rut, and I'm looking forward to seeing some of the new and creative ways that you guys do things. Now, it's kind of a big production when I set up our new school year. I put my notebook, you can see it down here at the bottom of the screen at the end of the table, and then I put all my children's notebooks all over the tables. Now, down on one end of the room, we have our school crates, which is where we store each child's notebooks, their school books, and some of their school supplies. You can see a close-up of some of the crates here. Over here on the shelf, I've got a stack of new notebook paper, lots of dividers that we bought at the store, all the things we need to put our notebooks together. Okay, so I've cleaned out my notebook from last year, and it's ready to be filled again. The front pockets of my notebook have odds and ends in them, and I'm sure yours will fill up with miscellaneous junk too. I'm a big fan of sticky notes, and throughout a day I'll write reminder notes to myself and stick them all right here. Okay, in the front of my notebook is my Together School Planner. Now you can print one of these under the Download Center under Planning Forms. This is a page that you'll probably use a lot when you're setting up everything. Of course, you should customize yours to fit your family. Do not just copy mine. Get mine as an example if you'd like, but otherwise make yours fit your family. Now, I'm the type of person who enjoys checking off check boxes each day. You probably already figured that out. Now, if I print off one of these lists each week, and then if I file it away in a drawer at the end of the week, I have a record of all our schoolwork, which would come in handy if I ever needed to prove that we're obeying our state's homeschooling laws. Now, this list also has my schedule on it. You can see it if you look close at yours. 8:30, we read the Torah portion, and this is around the table after breakfast. 9 o'clock, the chores for the big kids, while the little ones come and do letters and phonics with me. At 10 o'clock, we do Together School, and so on. And I want you to know that these are just target times. I do happen to have clocks in every room of my house, and I can see them from several different angles when we're doing school, but I don't necessarily stick to the clock very tightly. If we had a late night the day before and we get started late, it is not a big deal. Or if all the kids have the giggles one day, you know what I'm talking about. Or everyone is grumpy, maybe even me, and no one can pay attention, I can assure you these times don't work. We just do the next thing on the list no matter what time it is. However, I do appreciate knowing what the ideal is, and I thought you would appreciate seeing how long I expect things to take on a perfect day. Okay, I refer to this Together School Planner constantly. It is the most used page in my entire notebook, and for today, you will be looking at it a lot to help you remember everything you want to put into your notebook. So in the Download Center, in the Planning Forms section, I've given you a version that you can customize for your family, which you should do. Now, how do you know what to put on it? Well, first of all, don't be afraid to change it every week if you need to. It's just a form, just a tool. It's not your boss. But you can start by making a list of every subject that you feel that Yahweh is leading you to teach your children this year. And actually, you're going to make several lists. One for the subjects that you teach your children at one time, and another for subjects that you need to teach each child individually. And then you're going to make a list of each child's name and write down the subjects that they can do mostly on their own. And it's going to look different for your family because your kids are at different ages and grades than mine are. I really advise you to talk to your husband and be sure to get his input on this list. You know, take several days for this and allow your emotions to cool and your hormones to do their thing. And then once you have a solid list of subjects that you've prayed over and you've talked to your husband about, now you can think about your schedule. Now, when I'm making a schedule, I start with what's already on my schedule, the things that are already consistent in our days, so we don't have to turn everything up, on its end. I like to just stick with what's already a habit for us and then build on that. For instance, start with your husband. What time does he leave for work and come home each day? Now, mine works at home, but he still has a schedule he has to stick with. And then think about your meals and your sleep schedule. Your body's quite used to those things. Do you have babies or little ones? I would think about their needs next. It's a lot easier on them when their days are predictable and follow some sort of routine, and it allows them to just relax because they know what's next. And it calms down a lot of their low-level anxiety that I'm sure you have seen happens at the beginning of every school year. Older children, teenagers, and adults, we can adjust what time of day we do things, math, science, reading, and all that. But little ones, they have a harder time adjusting. So I personally think you should consider their needs right after your husband's. And especially consider the levels of noise in your house, how often they're going to get snacks and meals, when their naps are, and that they don't feel completely neglected as you do school with the older ones. Now, I don't have any babies in the house at this time, so my schedule reflects that. But if I did, quite a bit of this together school would be done while I was nursing a baby or during nap times. And I promise it would look a lot different. And that's why I want to emphasize you need to customize this for your family and your home. Okay, once you've gotten these things into your schedule, or at least some sort of a framework for your day, now you can plug in your older children's school subjects. And think about your own energy levels. I start to wear out after a while. I'm sure you do too. And when you're tired, you're going to be more bothered by normal giggling or by questions about math. So again, as you do school for a few weeks, feel free to adjust the schedule around and further customize it. For today, once you have a list of all the subjects that you'll do together, and then the subjects that you'll do individually, and your children will then do on their own, you can use it to compile your notebooks. Okay, after my Together School Planner, I have several pages of calendars, and these just help me see when school breaks and holidays are. The second calendar here in my notebook is my attendance calendar. I just mark each day that we do school, and sometimes my oldest daughter, she's 14, will take care of this job for me. Then I have our local school district's calendars, and behind that is a copy of the homeschooling laws for Wisconsin. That's where we live, and it's printed from Homeschool Legal Defense. And I have a copy of the record keeping that I'm required to file with our district. And finally, I have copies of my high school students' transcripts. Now, after that, you'll see a few sheets of notebook paper, and they're just stuck there for more places to write lists and ideas. I'm going through this awfully quickly. I hope you realize that it took a long time to actually put it all in the notebook. Okay, the first tab in my notebook says checklists. You can download these checklists online in the Download Center, again, under the planning forms. And I make one of these checklists for each student. And this list goes into his or her notebook at the very front for him to refer to each day to be sure he's done his independent assignments. There's my oldest son. Here's one for my 14-year-old Caitlin, and well, then here it is in her notebook. Now I have a copy of all 6 of my children's checklists in my notebook in one spot, so that I will remember what each child is supposed to be doing on their own that day. This is not stuff I usually do with them. Later in the day, when they come to me and they ask if they can get some, can I go do something? And I say, well, are you all done with your schoolwork? I can then flip open this list and go through it with them and hold them accountable. Now, Scripture says, a child left to himself brings his mother to shame. And I have found this verse to be true time and time again, to my shame. So these lists help me remember all of my good intentions, and they keep me accountable so that I can actually check up on my kids. Of course, they're very handy today when setting up my notebook. They'll help me make sure that I've gotten everything into their notebook so that they'll actually be able to do the schoolwork that I've assigned to them. Okay, we're ready to start printing a lot of things. I want to emphasize that you should read each subject's introduction page before you start printing. Those are available under the Teacher Helps tab on your membership site, and you can scroll down and see all of the introductions. These pages are going to come in handy, especially at the beginning of the school year as you're getting used to the curriculum. Okay, now the first tab after my checklist is preschool, because I have a 3-year-old son, so I'm using preschool with him this year. And I printed the first week, but I need to tell you my secret for saving ink. I am not planning to print all of these every week. I'm planning to upload the rest of the preschool plans to my Kindle this year. In fact, I'm planning to upload all of the following subjects to my Kindle each week rather than printing all of this out. And it's going to save gallons of ink as well as room in my notebook. I put on my Kindle my preschool, our Together School, my history, that's what's on the screen right here, Phonics 1, The Phonics 2 readers, I can sit with my Kindle with my daughter and she can read them right off of there. Writing, math drills, my math teacher's manuals, oral language that we do during lunch, science for after lunch, and I put PE on there, and sometimes I use that and sometimes I use a printed one. So my Kindle is my way to save ink. Now, because I do phonics with my 6 and my 8-year-old next, while they are still fresh, I do first the 6-year-old and then the 8-year-old, the next section of my notebook has a few things that I want to keep handy for phonics. And by the way, my older children finish up their chores during this time, but it doesn't take them the whole time. Some of them go and play with Alistair, my little 3-year-old, and the rest of them just arrive at the table and start in on their own subjects, usually math, while waiting for me to get ready for Together School time. Okay, now you can see on the screen a sequence chart for Phonics 1 right here, and this is for Casey, my 6-year-old. And then my 8-year-old, I have inside my notebook a cursive writing thing because she needs some help with her cursive handwriting. So I'm doing the shortcut to cursive lessons with her that are at the beginning, at the beginning of the school year. So here's some notes for that, and behind there is a progress chart. And everything else I need for phonics is on my Kindle. As I think about phonics, I go over to the side of the table where their notebooks are, and I go ahead and I print out their worksheets for both of the girls. And there's Phonics 2, and I go ahead and punch holes in them and get them into their notebooks. Okay, next is a tab for Together School in my notebook. Now, I printed the first week here, and as we go through the year, I probably will add some of my personal Hebrew worksheets here. That's just for me. I need more practice on Hebrew than the other people do in my family, I'm frustrated to say, so I'm planning to put all of my study tools right here. My husband and kids took some Hebrew classes at our congregation this last spring, but I stayed home with the little ones, and I am just super rusty. But otherwise, everything for Together School is going on my Kindle. Okay, my world history lessons are next. They are on my Kindle, so I don't have anything for that in my notebook here. I do have grammar in the notebook because I already had it printed out from a previous year, but I bet I could have put that on my Kindle too. I did print the student worksheets now for grammar, and I've gone around and I've put them into my older students' notebooks. Now just my 4 older students do grammar. And then writing is on my Kindle. But I printed out 1 copy of the writing worksheets and put that into a 3-prong folder, and they can share. I didn't figure my 4 older students each needed their own writing instruction thing. They can just share, save ink. And next is spelling, and it's kind of the same idea. I printed the teacher guide for these because I might delegate this subject to my oldest son, Eric. He's in 12th grade, and when I'm delegating, I don't necessarily want to share my Kindle with him. So I printed the spelling things for each level and placed them into another 3-prong folder, and the kids can share it. And then I also printed out typing, just 1, even though I have many children doing it. I just printed 1, and they can take their turns. Next in my notebook, okay, back to my notebook on the end of the table, is vocabulary. And I have the master word list here in my notebook. And then I printed a master word list for each of my children that are doing vocabulary, and then they are using the index card option. There were 2 different options. You could print out a printed form every week, or you could have them handwrite it onto index cards. I have so many children doing it that I went ahead with the cheaper index cards, and I'll let them write it. Now, I also have in my notebook, at the back of the end of the table, I have some vocabulary review games just to remind me of what they are. You can download those under the Language Arts tab on your membership, and it's on the vocabulary page. Okay, next it's math time. Again, I put the math drills and the math teacher manuals on my Kindle, and I printed the worksheets for each of the kids. I have them put into their own notebook, and I don't have them sharing on this because they're probably going to be doing math at the same time each day, and I think they would just get frustrated with each other. As for Copywork, I only printed out handwriting templates for my 6-year-old and my 8-year-old daughters. The rest of my children are already able to write without needing these examples. So they just copy right out of their Bibles each day because they've been doing it longer. I don't print out the entire Bible for even my younger students at once because my goal is to wean them off of these templates and save myself printer ink. So I might print 10 pages or so at a time, And then we will reevaluate and maybe print out the next level where the handwriting is a little bit smaller, a little bit more cursive. And if their handwriting has matured enough, then they get to graduate up to a level, and they're excited when they don't have to have these at all, and they get to be a big kid and copy straight out of their Bibles. That's our goal. Now, during Copywork time, while my kids are working on that, I take a break from school and let the kids work rather independently till lunchtime as much as possible because I'm tired, but I'm nearby if they need me. After that, we have lunch, and I do oral language, and then after that, it's time for PE, but my husband handles PE. I know, that's not fair. I have my husband home, but all I have left then is science after that. So in my notebook, we're back to my notebook where I'm printing subjects out. Whoops, I think I put spelling in here instead of science. Here, there we go. There's science. I don't actually, I wanted to show you, I just put the wrong picture up. I do print out the little kids' science and put it into my notebook because I kind of think it through during my week and I plan out things for them to do. I only do science with them a very short bit each week. Now, the older kids' science goes on my Kindle, not into my notebook. I'm sorry, I have the picture wrong. But then here we have a picture of one of my daughter's notebooks, and it's printed out for her to have in her notebook because she has some independent assignments. Now, I'm not planning to print out art and crafts and chores and things like that. I just look at the computer like all of you guys, or just check it, right off of the computer screen. Print things as I need them and save ink. Okay, the next section of my notebook contains a divider for each of my students. So I have 7 of them. I even have one here for my little 3-year-old because there are days that I want to remember to do things with him or to teach him certain things. And then in the last back section of my notebook, I have even more tabs. I have printed out the individual Bible reading schedules that are online. My 5 older children are reading through the Bible on their own each year. And just so that I can look at a glance at what they are supposed to be reading each day and ask them maybe to tell me about it sometimes and hold them accountable, but even more so, we can strike up good discussions as the Spirit leads. And then in the very back of my notebook, you can kind of cock your head sideways. I wanted you to see that I have 3 manila file folders. One says attendance records, and this is just where I put my Together School Planner at the end of each week and then print out a fresh one. And this becomes a record of our schoolwork, and it goes in the drawer at the end of the year. And then the next tab says spelling, and this is where I record the grade that each child gets on its weekly spelling test. Now, after that is another folder for arithmetic grades to be recorded in. I just file the test right behind where I have the grades written down. And these are the only 2 subjects that I keep grades for because it's not required for my state. Now, you might have different requirements. I do it more for my own sake to make sure that they are doing well on their spelling, especially because, as I said, I delegate that subject to my oldest son, and I don't want to be checked out and not even aware if my children are able to spell or not. So let's review. At this point, my notebook is starting to fill up with everything that is not loaded into my Kindle. I already have the curriculum loaded onto my Kindle because we wrote it. But if it weren't, I would load it on the first day of each week when I went in to get, that's what I would do. I would just pick a day each week that I'd get all my lesson plans for that week and then load things up on my Kindle. I would recommend making yourself a list of all of the things that you're going to print each week, okay? I don't have this because mine is already available, but that's what I would do if I were in your shoes. And then I would have another list of everything that I would, if it were you, I would load onto my Kindle or tablet or whatever. Basically, you need a checklist. And once you have that checklist made, the first time you make it, it's going to be a bear to make, but after that, it'll be a breeze. And then just pick a date each week to just sit down and do it, or go to a copy shop or whatever that you're doing. Now, just refer to it each week. So we've got my notebook. I've got everything printed, everything loaded onto my Kindle. I have my children's notebooks mostly set up by now, too, because as I was going through each subject, I was printing what they needed. And then they each have their homework checklists in the front of their notebooks, just like I have my Together School Planner in the front of mine. Some of the children have handwriting reference sheets in their plastic sheet protectors. They have phonics, grammar, vocabulary word lists. a writing section that's basically just filled with notebook paper. There are Copywork templates for the children that do need them, science for those that are doing science, and math, of course, for just about everybody. My high school students who are learning Hebrew as their foreign language have some of that going into their notebooks. Each student has 2 composition books. One is for spelling. They write their spelling words in it. And the other one is for Copywork, and that's where they're copying scripture. Each of them have some lined index cards for vocabulary, and then we put them into this basket up here on top of this bookshelf. And I have the phonics cards in there, Hebrew flashcards in there as well. That's just something that my high school students are using. It's not part of the curriculum. Then I have these 3 folders that contain spelling, writing, and typing because we are sharing those and I didn't want to print them. That's just an optional way of doing it. Then over here on the shelf, this is where we put some binders that we store our notebooking assignments. Now, I know all these words, binders and notebooks, it gets confusing, but these notebooking assignments are, for instance, in history, it'll say, make a page with a map of the Middle East, okay? Whatever. This is where we store all of these things. Now, last year, my daughter was in kindergarten, and she made her little purple sparkly notebook, had a page for each letter of the alphabet. And we also have a notebook for Bible time, which they can store their memory verse activities in and anything else that sometimes the curriculum will ask you to do. Okay, then we have a history notebook. This one gets used quite a bit. We have worksheets, maps, assignments, lots of fun stuff here. Got different things that we were doing. And then I also put our geography assignments if we have those. I just put those right in with history just to save myself another notebook. Then we have a science notebook. And you can see our family is not the craftiest, most scrapbooking family that ever existed. I'm kind of embarrassed to let you see our notebooks. We're not really that gorgeous, but man, you guys probably have so much creativity coming out of you that your notebooks will be amazing. But whatever it is, our kids do love doing it and having their work on display and looking back at it. While I was putting this video together today, the kids were enjoying looking back at last year's and seeing what they had done. Now, I don't have a binder for our timeline because I bought a timeline book many years ago. Let's see, probably almost 12 or 13 years ago. And we just keep using that one, and it's nice to remember what we've talked about on our timelines in previous years. You could purchase a timeline book, or you could print one off the internet. You could make one yourself. You can just see it's just a line with dates. Or you could hang a strip of paper around the edge of the room. I have a friend that does that and put all of the year's dates on it. It's nice. Whatever you do, just be consistent and do something that works for your family. I think you're going to really enjoy the timelines. Now, I have a dedicated schoolroom, as you can see, but I have not always had that. And I wanted to emphasize that again to tell you to customize this. For most of our lives, the dining room table has served as our schoolroom, and I had a crate, and each child had a crate. And at the end of the school day, the crates went into their bedrooms so that we could feel like a normal family again for just a couple minutes and get away from that school feeling for at least one meal a day. It was really important to my husband, by the way. He hates clutter. Now, another year we had a lot of doctor appointments to travel to, and those crates were switched out for bags for each child. So we could just pick up the bag and put it in the van with us and go. Now, there is no right or wrong system. Just do what works best for you. But the old saying of a place for everything and everything in its place does help to relieve some of the stress of homeschooling. Try to store things near where their point of use is, because you'll be more likely to actually put things away if their homes are handy, rather than having a really pretty storage system but more complicated. So, for instance, over on the top picture, you'll see this purple thing and all these mounds of junk. It looks awful in this picture. Probably looks awful in real life. But anyway, that's our coloring and our markers and our stencils and our stickers and our Scotch tape and our rulers and our compasses and all of those things. And we just have it all in this big tote and plop it in the middle of the table. And other years, though, each child has had their own, and it's been in their crate because we never knew where we would be. And it just depends on the year, doesn't it? I think you'll understand that. And by the way, this is my cat, Mocha, who wanted to be in the picture. Okay, now this is how we set up our crates. this is just what we're doing. This year, each crate has a Bible in it, and I recommend, because you're going to be using your Bible a lot, I do recommend getting some of those zipper covers for them so that they just don't fall apart so quickly. The crates will have their chapter books in it, maybe some nonfiction books if I've assigned them to read. Their composition books for spelling and copywork, maybe some spiral notebooks if you have a reason for wanting to use them, that's fine. Maybe a crayon container. Put all of that into each crate. My high school students get a few more books because I make them do a lot. I figure this is the only time in their life they're going to have all this spare time, so I kind of pile it on for them. And then I have the rest of our school supplies here on the shelf. Our fiction books are arranged here, and the rest of this is mostly just books for me, used to actually write all of the curriculum. And here's our whiteboard, and it's over where we can use it. And then here is our calendar, our traditional calendars, our chore charts, and up above I have a wipe-off calendar that I can use the biblical Torah calendar on. And then here are baskets that are just filled with manipulatives and flashcards and miscellaneous school and science supplies that I've collected over the years. And that's basically it. We're ready to start our new school year. So if you have any questions, if it's still not clear, I'm sure it will take you quite a few hours to put all of this together, and then a week or 2 or 3 of adjusting and tweaking to make sure that it fits your personality and your style, and you're not just copying the Elliots. I guarantee you the more you copy me, the more frustrated you're going to be. I think you should just throw me out the window and make it fit you. Go to the website as if it's a smorgasbord and pick and choose the things that Yahweh puts on your heart that He wants you to teach your family. And if there's anything we can do to make that process easier, you feel free to let us know. Otherwise, just customize it and make it fit your family. All right, this has been Ann, and it's been a privilege to help and serve you. We'll talk to you again on another video soon.